So in this video, I'm going to show you all of the mainly Visual Studio shortcuts that I use in Visual Studio. I get asked it quite a lot now, as I'm doing the videos, how I'm doing certain things, or the shortcuts I use. We're also going to cover some of them are generic Windows shortcuts, if you will, that some of you might not know. So we're going to start with them, and there's quite a few, but we're going to go through all of them. I've made a markdown document as well that'll be included in this description, as well as a link to the source code so you can print off the document if you want to keep a reference of all the shortcuts. But we're going to work through them one by one and discuss how I use them. It's fairly quick and simple. I'm just going to use them and tell you what they are, but there's a lot to go through. So the first one is general copy and pasting. So as obvious as it is to some, others might not even do that. They might find themselves, doing this, right-clicking, copying, right-clicking, pasting, things like that. So to go through the real basics, if you've got something selected, Control and C to copy, Control and V, which is next to the C, to paste, and Control and X, which is also next to C, to cut. So you've got in order of, the bottom of the keyboard, you've got cut, which is X, copy, which is C, and V, which is paste. So you hold Control down and you press X, C, or V for cut, copy, and paste. And you've also got, if you type something and you accidentally wanted to undo it, you can press Control and Z to undo. And again, they're all in a row. So the bottom four keys on the keyboard, Z, X, C, V, are undo, cut, copy, and paste. If you've undone something, say I've typed all this and gone, oh, I'll undo that, Control Z, then if I want to redo, you simply hold Control and Shift and then press Z. Well, that should have worked. Let's have a look. Edit. Oh, so it's usually Control, Shift, and Z. In this, it is Control and Y. So in some applications, like say Adobe Photoshop, Control, Shift, and Z redoes. In Visual Studio, it's Control and Y to then go forwards. So Control Z backwards, Control Y forwards, or Z if you're American, Z or Z, whichever. So that's the cut, copy, and paste, and undo and redo commands. They're all just generic, usable outside of Visual Studio, but some commands that people don't use. Next, in terms of Visual Studio, one of my favorite ones is if we are, say I'm replacing something or I'm changing something. Like, I know with this sender, we can just rename to say sender 2 this way, but there's other instances where you're changing something out. So if you wanted to change sender to say, what is this sender? It's going to be scroll viewer. So if we wanted to call this scroll viewer like this, and for whatever reason we weren't doing the rename and we wanted to paste it in all three of these, if you hold Control and click, it'll select the full word automatically. So wherever we click, it'll select a full word. So this is really useful. So in combination with what we've just learned with copy and paste, if you hold Control, so I hold Control, and I keep Control held for this whole process, I'd click, press C to copy, click V, click V, click V, click V, kind of paste through in that way. So Control and click selects the current word. Then we have another useful thing, which is, say we want to edit, say this whole thing we wanted to change. So we've got a list of similar events, which typically you'd have, multiple things of whatever you're doing, in batch, which happens in code. You've got, all these. And say you wanted to change data context changed to, let's have a look. What other events have we got? Say you wanted to change it to focusable changed, and you're going to make use of the fact that it's already there. So you could just change this to focusable like this, and then click copy, paste like this. The other option is if you hold Alt and now you click and drag, you can drag basically any shape. So you drag around here to highlight data context and you start typing focusable, and you'll see now it'll change every line that's currently selected in a row, which is again really useful in situations where you have that type of inline, something's the same, and you want to scroll down and select like that and then start typing, and it'll type on all the lines. So that one is, I guess, a select area for the text. I don't know what you'd class it as, but you hold the the Alt button, and you then click and drag. Then there's the other one. If you're on the keyboard, again, it's all aimed at not having to take your hands off the keyboard and mess with the mouse too much for most situations. So say you wanted to move this line above to up here, so you swap the order. You can hold Shift and go up to select from where you are, which is fine. That's the way you'd select the text on the keyboard. But then if you want to move it above, you can either Control and X and delete that, then go up, Control and V, and then new line. So it's, cutting and pasting basically. But say if you're having to do that, if you simply select the lines, now hold the Alt on the keyboard and just press up and down on the keyboard, you can move it any way you like, and it shifts text around for you. So that's the alternate way of doing that. And I only recently discovered that, funnily enough, and I keep trying to remember to use that instead of the habit of cut, move, paste type of thing, when you can just hold Alt and scroll up. So that's kind of moving lines with the up and down arrow. Next section is kind of all aimed at like searching and navigating. So if we wanted to find out where something's used, like say where this property is being consumed, you can either click up here, references, but again, you're trying to avoid having to get the mouse out all the time. So if you're selected on something like this and you press F12, it should then find, or rather Shift F12, finds all of the, where it's used, the references. So that's how you find where this is used. The F12 is to take you to where the instance of something is. So let's say the scroll viewer, even though we're not using it here. So here, this is the actual instance of this class. So F12 simply takes you to the actual class. But if say you click on scroll viewer and you wanted to go to the instance of scroll viewer, you press F12 and it will take you to the actual scroll viewer class. So F12 takes you to the instance itself of whatever you're hovering over. Shift F12 on something will then find everywhere that class is used. So if I want to see everywhere I've used scroll viewer, I'll click scroll viewer, hold Shift, press F12, and then it shows me here everywhere I've used scroll viewer in the code. So that's F12 and Shift F12 for basically finding references. The next we have, it's a Visual Studio 2017. I think it's been around before, but it's been really enhanced in 2017. So you hold Control and press T for Tango, and you'll get this Go to All pop up over here. And now you can type almost anything that's in all of your code to find. So if I type the word scroll, you'll see it finds the scroll to bottom on load, which is this thing. It's found scroll viewer. It's found scroll viewer attached properties, auto scroll to bottom. It's basically found all instances of where I've got the word scroll. So it's really useful for kind of going to a specific thing in your code. Say you've got a class with a certain thing, or you've got a property. Say we know we've got a view model. So let's go to one of these view models down here, and we know we've got this attachment button command. But let's say we weren't in there, and we know it's an attachment button command. You press Control T, start typing attachment, and then you can see attachment button command is there. And it'll take you straight to that part of code. So it's like I guess a more intelligent way of kind of finding everything. It's an an IntelliSense version. So as you're typing, you can see. So you can see here whether it's a class or a code file, or a method based on these symbols. So it's better than just typing and searching for the text itself. So that's Control and T, and that's basically called Go to All. Then you've got the Solution Explorer as well over here. So if you want to, you might not even know that you can search this whole Solution Explorer. So say we click here and type chat, you'll see then it'll kind of filter everywhere where chat's used in the application. A shortcut to be able to do that, again, so you don't have to get the mouse out and you encode, there's Control and then semicolon. And then you're instantly there ready to type away, and then Escape to cancel out. So that's a quick way to get to the Solution Explorer. It also hints in here the shortcut for you as well. It actually tells you the shortcut there. Then we've got cycling through open documents. So if I open a few more and I'm looking through, I know I'm usually working with however many files, and I've typically got the ones that I'm editing open. And to quickly flick between files, you hold Control and tap Tab, and you'll see this box pop up where you can then, flick through. So hold Control, tab however many times, and then let go of Control, and it'll open that file. And that's kind of a quick way where I just flick through these, the last couple of files I've had open without having to then get the mouse and start clicking around. Also, if you've got, say you're working in this code and we've gone, oh, scroll's changed, I've just added that. Now I've got this function here, press F12 to jump to the function, and I start typing something here. But say this function was a long way away, it was 100 lines of code down, and then I've gone there and I've gone to scroll back up, and now I'll just edit up here, and you've got a history of where you've been. Everywhere you click and everywhere you go is in the history of the navigation. So if you want to now quickly go back to wherever you just were, it could have been in a 1,000-line long code file, or it could have just simply been in a different file altogether. So we can now jump over to this file and then start editing this one. But the thing I'm trying to get to now is, say you wanted to go back where you've recently just been, and it could be anywhere in all of the code you have. So it's not like it's just simply going to a specific file. You just want to see where you've been. You hold Control and press the minus button. You'll see it steps back effectively to all the last places you visited in order. So it's stepping back everywhere I've clicked. And then if you press plus, Control and plus instead of Control and minus, it goes the opposite way and it jumps forward. Or it should do. It's not doing it here. Or is it Control Shift? Oh no, wrong way. Control Shift and minus is the reverse. So Control and minus goes backwards. Control Shift and minus goes in the opposite direction. So if I started off here for real obvious examples, if I click here, then here, then here, and just literally go down one at a time through the lines to create some history. Now if I press Control minus, oh, it hasn't done that. It's not a big enough change. Okay, let's go edit, edit, edit. Let's just create some history on each line. I believe you have to actually type for it to matter. Now if I press Control minus, still not doing it. I think it's too smart for doing it just like that. So I clicked here, and went down to here, I went down to here. Now it's going to jump, to the text. So it's smart enough that if you're in, I guess if you're in the same region, kind of doesn't create history. You have to be so many lines apart. So if I go there, yeah. So if it hasn't changed scroll, it doesn't register another location, or there's some kind of smart detection there. But in general, you find it useful that you're at a certain place, and then you'll go to another file, and you'll go somewhere else, and you'll find yourself going, where was I just? I was just in that other file a minute ago, and I can't remember because you're bouncing back and forth between code. Then you just press Control minus, and you'll end up back where you were. So that's kind of the point of that feature. And I do use that quite a lot to, as I'm flying through code and trying to find my way back. So that's that. Then we spoke about Control T to kind of go to all. If that's not working for you, or you're trying to search for, say, a comment, or just in general, you just want to do a regular search and find all results, Control Shift and F will pop up a find dialog. Type the word chat and press enter. And then we're getting all these, just the old style dump of text. There's no intelligent find here. This is just a simple text search of all the files, and you just see the raw dump. You can still double click to jump to the locations, so you got that benefit. But in general, it's not as nice as using the Control go to all, the Control T up there. But this is the old way of finding things. So Control Shift and F. But you'll notice you have some extra options here. So you've got where you want to search. Maybe you only want to search specific locations or within certain text. Or you just want to replace certain things in text. You can match words. You can use regular expressions. So this has still got its place. Where I'd use that maybe is, say I'm copying and pasting a chunk of code, which is generally you don't want to do. You're trying to avoid copying and pasting because that can introduce errors. But say I was copying and pasting some code. And I wanted to change, again, let's just say this as an example, and I copy and pasted, and I just want to change everywhere. Say this was a lot more lines than this. So it could be like that many lines. And maybe they're not in line, so I can't do the alt drag. So in this instance they are, but let's presume they're all a bunch of things in different order. So this could be control 2, this could be 22, this could be 222. Whatever it is, they're all out of line. But I want to change everywhere that there's data context changed to focusable changed. You could do select all, or you could double click and copy this first, or control click and copy. Then you can select all the text, control shift and F, replace all, and then in the find what you paste what you had, and then the replace all you do focusable changed, and then you just simply say look in and change this to selection. Now if you watch here and I press replace all, it's now replaced all those instances. So that's kind of a use of the find all and find and replace all. There's many more uses, like say there's regex searching and things like that, but it's similar to the go to all, but you've got more features in the find for, you know, directly manipulating plain text, not specifically coded objects. And then another one, to be honest, I don't really use, but it's a good thing I should get into, and it's easy enough. So we mentioned like control minus and control shift minus to go back and forward in position where you were. But say there's always a position where you want to go to a lot in code. So let's say, I don't know, in here, maybe we have, maybe I have IOC in here, because we do the IOC and where we set it up. So say this bind to view model is somewhere where we typically want to go to, and you sometimes forget the name of this, or it's just, you know, you can't quite remember where this function is, but this is a very important function of the application that you want to come to fairly often. So you can click any line you want, so let's click the top. If you press Control and then press K twice, hold Control, K twice, you'll see then this appears on the left hand side. And this is now a bookmark. So that's one bookmark. You can then go to bookmarks, but we'll make another one. So let's go to another file first. Let's go to, say, the app XAML as well, and we'll go to the code behind. And we'll go to the similar on startup, or let's go to this bit here where we bind after the setup. And we'll press Control KK. And now we have the bookmark here. So then anywhere you are in code, or even if everything's closed, it doesn't matter, you can now instantly jump to bookmarks. And to do that, you just press Control and then K once, and N for next, or P for previous. And then you have to press that each time, Control K and then P, KP. And it'll jump. You can see it's going between all the bookmarks we have. So no matter where you are in code, you'd only set up bookmarks typically. Like I say, I don't really use them, so I guess you use them how you like. But where I'd set them up is just on key parts of the application. So you're not cycling through a load of, you know, going, oh, where is it, and flicking through tons of different places. But I think that's useful for kind of a semi-permanent tag of jumping to specific parts of code that you might want to always just quickly jump to with a keyboard shortcut then. So that's Control K and P for previous, Control K and N for next. And you also have the buttons up here. You've got your toolbar set up the same. So this makes or removes the bookmark just the same as Control KK does. And this is the previous and next. And you can see the shortcuts written on there for you as well. And then clear all bookmarks in the file, which just removes them all. So that's bookmarks. And again, use them how you like. But I'd typically say I would make use of those on just key parts of the code. I wouldn't use them too much, because then you've got to kind of defeats the point of cycling through all of those all of those bookmarks. And then I've left this toolbar. I usually hide this toolbar on videos, so it's clearer. So I've left it open for this video because I've got a new feature that I definitely am going to start using, which shows the benefit of then, if you typically have this toolbar on show. And that's to go full screen, which is actually a really nice feature, which I never really thought of. They're usually not very beneficial. But in Visual Studio, the new full screen is actually really useful. And what it does is simply removes this title bar at the top. Then this stuff at the title bar jumps down to here, so just in the line. So all these two lines effectively become one. it removes all the toolbar here, which you pretty much never use anyway, so that goes. And then it expands down to the bottom. So you actually gain a decent amount. You gain 4 or 5 lines of code depending on your resolution. So this is actually really big resolution for recording the videos. But if we scrolled up, you can see we've got 30 lines of code. Now, if we press Control, I think it's Control Shift and Enter. Nope. Shift Alt and Enter. There we go. So if we do Shift Alt and Enter, it goes full screen. And you can see now we've got 35 lines of code. When outside we've got 31, and this is, like I say, really big text. This is huge on my screen. So you'd probably gain anywhere from 5 to 10 lines of code extra when you're in full screen, which is, you know, nice and useful. You just got all the space dedicated to just what you want without any waste. And that's just called full screen. And then you can get out of full screen either again with the Shift, Alt, and Enter, or you can click the full screen there. So I'm going to carry on doing the video with this full screen from here because, you know, this is how I want to start doing the videos anyways in the full screen, because it's a really useful, you know, I don't see any reason not to run in full screen basically, because it just gives you all the added space and I don't really lose anything that I care about here. You also then don't get the distraction of the toolbar, which will be showing, you know, your emails popping in, your messages popping in. It can distract you from what you're doing. So this is kind of a good way to focus as well. And then in terms of now, let's say building the project. So instead of going, you know, debug, in fact, I never even use this menu, so I'll be lucky find it. Build and then build solution. I just press Control Shift and B whenever I'm building a solution, and that just fires off the build for me. So I don't think I've ever used, you know, like build solution for years. I just use the shortcut. And then you can see it's built successful. So that's how I always build a solution. We then have, let's say, I do this quite a lot in new projects, but let's go to somewhere where we probably don't have a namespace for what I want. So let's say here, and say I'm in anywhere. Let's just go in this constructor, and I want to make, say, a new task, and I'll type the word task, and you'll see there's nothing there. But then what I'll do is I'll hold Control and press dot, and it'll show up this menu of basically it's suggestions. It's like autocomplete suggestions, way to solve a problem. So it's found that I'm trying to use the word task, which is in the namespace system threading tasks. So I'll just press Control and dot to show this menu and then enter. And then that adds the using namespace up here for me. So that's what you'll see me doing a lot in code. When I start typing, you know, task, and I'll just do it like that. You won't even see it happen. I'll just type task and I'll just press Control dot enter, and the menu rarely even shows. And then I've got the namespace appearing for me. So if you type your code following my video, and then you realize there's no, you know, you get this error, you probably hover over, and then it says this, and then maybe you click this, and then click this. But that's a lot more time than staying on the keyboard and simply pressing Control dot enter, and then carrying on with what you're doing. And that works in a lot of different situations. It's basically any kind of pop-up window for suggestions on anything. So you press dot there, there's no real suggestion. But say I have a private member and I don't name it with an undercase M, which is part of my naming conventions, and I do Control dot, it'll then suggest to me with a huge pop-up window to rename, you know, fixed name violation, and rename it back for me. So there's, it's basically, it's not just for, you know, adding using namespaces, it's for kind of auto completing any issues in code. Another one is, say I want to rename a property correctly. So instead of going, I want to rename this to width 2, and I type width 2, and I Control Shift and build and find out that, oh, I've got it's used here and it's now not got the right name, so I'll rename it to 2 here as well. And you go through all your code like that. Instead of doing that, you can click on the variable and then press Control and then press R twice for rename. And then it'll pop up with this highlighted text, and it'll show here, rename blah blah blah. You can include the rename in comments to search for comments. You can preview changes, so click that. And then here, if I change it to 2, rename will update 3 references and 3 files. so you know that it's going to change 3 different things. And then you apply, and with the preview selected, you can see everywhere it's going to change it for you, you know, in all the code. So that's how you'd rename values. You wouldn't typically just rename them. You'd press Ctrl+R, and it will do a smart rename of the variable. And then if you want to cancel out of it, you press Escape. If you want to actually do the rename, then you just press Enter, and it will rename all the variables for you. So that's how you should rename anything. Again, it doesn't have to just be variables. It can be class names. It can be anything that you've given a name to. You can rename in the same way. Another one is for commenting code. So let's say we've written all this code. Maybe we're debugging and we just want to quickly remove all this code and check whether, you know, this code is affecting in a certain way. You just basically want to get rid of this code temporarily. You can comment this whole block. So there's 2 ways. One is you click up here, /*, go to the bottom, */ to do like a block commenting out, and then afterwards you get rid of these 2 things. The other option, which is what I tend to do, because it just seems a little quicker, is just select all the text, Control-KC, for surrounding everything you've got selected in single line comment. And then when you're done, you select it all, Control-K and U, which is kind of undo. I think of it as, you know, C for comment and U for undo, you know, like uncomment. So select the text, Control-KC, Control-KU to, you know, comment a block of text and uncomment a block. So again, I find that quite useful. If you're in large files or in files in general, and maybe you've got a lot of stuff open and you're just doing a check, or you just want to find a function now, or for whatever reason you just want to collapse everything. So that's why we've got these regions to collapse them, and you've got functions that you can, you know, collapse down to just the definitions. If you want to do that for the whole class or for a certain amount of text, you can either select all the text or select what text you want it to work on, or just have no text selected, then it'll work on the whole file. If you then press Control-M and M, so M for mother twice, you can see I've got that bit selected there. So in order to do it on the whole file, select all, which is Control-A, then Control-M and M, and it will collapse everything right down. And then you undo, and everything's collapsed to, you know, its most collapsed state. So it kind of cleans up the class, and you can start re-expanding to just see what you want. But say you don't want to collapse it quite that far, you can do Control-MM to completely collapse. If it's already completely collapsed, Control-MM or completely uncollapse. So it does both ways. It either fully closes everything or fully expands everything. But say you just want it collapsed down to kind of definition level. So like, you know, that's closed, and all the functions are minimized like this. Then you can do select all, Control-A, and then Control-M and O. And that will collapse everything to this level, which is probably the more useful level, where you're just seeing then all the properties and methods, but without any comments and without any actual method bodies. So that's a collapsing code and collapsing to kind of definition level of code. So another feature we have as well is the quick launch menu up here, which is another useful feature in 2017. This will search almost everywhere. So it'll search all of like tools and options. It'll search all in here. It'll search for everything in there, and it'll search quite a few other locations. So you can press Control and Q to get into the search dialog and type anything you like, and then get your pop-up menu for, you know, finding specific. So I use it mostly for searching out of here. So that this settings menu is a bit ridiculous for, you know, finding what you want and where. So if you want to find, say, you know, there's an option for, let's have a look, let's say debugging, and, you know, there's warn if no user code. So if you typed in quick launch, warn if no user code, it would actually give you an option to open tools, debugging in that specific location. So this is a very useful search at the minute. My menu is broken at the minute. I think it's maybe the recording software screwing the menu up, but you would see it. So I can actually type, say, code snippet, and I think even though the menu isn't showing up, no. Well, without the menu, let's type tools and press enter. No, so my menu is kind of broke at the minute. but I just have to restart Visual Studio. But with me doing a video, I'm not going to bother restarting just to show you that menu. But basically type in here and you'll see what I mean. It's very useful for searching lots of different things. And that's Control and Q to shortcut to basically put the keyboard focus up here for you. Then we have just a few more now, really. One is when you're debugging. So let's say we want to debug this application. And we'll go to, let's just go to the app. Let's go to main window, say. And let's go to when it initializes. We'll put a breakpoint here by clicking in this grey line. Then you just press F5 to start the debugging. Let's go back to full screen again. So we press F5 to start debugging. And you'll see now we've hit this breakpoint. It's gone yellow. This is where we are. If I then want to step through the code, I'll press F10. And that'll step to the next line of code, and F10 again, it steps to the next line. If I just want to then continue running the code up until the next breakpoint, so let's get to let's go to somewhere like chat message view model, chat message list view model, say, and anytime we open the attachment menu, we put a breakpoint here. But right now we're still in debug, so the application's waiting for us here. So in order to carry on, let the application carry on, press F5, and that will continue running the code. Then when we click something, we'll click the attachment menu. You can see we've hit the debugger here. So again, you can step through with F10 and simply step over lines of code. Then we need to get to somewhere where we want to step into a function. So let's see. We need to find a place where we can do that to show the next thing. So here, that's probably good enough because we've got a relay command. So press F5 to carry on running. If we click again, you'll see here now. So instead of pressing F10 this time to go to this line here, go to the next line, maybe I want to step into this relay command that's then being created. So if you press F11 instead of F10, you'll step what's called step into. So it'll always go as far into the code as it can. So instead of going to this line, it knows first it's going to run this relay command. So if I press F11, steps into the relay command here, and this is being run on the constructor to create it. And then if I press F10 or F11 again, you'll see I'm stepping through the code, and then it comes back up. So if you press F11 now, it's the next line because there's nowhere further it can go. So depending on if you want to, you just want to jump down lines that you've seen to get to a certain point, you can press F10. If you want to always go into the code as much as possible, or you want to go into a specific line like here, you press F11 and it'll then jump into the constructor, and then step through basically. So it's a combination of F10 and F11 for stepping through code, and then F5 when you're done debugging and you want it to run, and then the software then runs. If you then want to stop debugging, you press Shift and F5, and that will stop the code debugging and close the application. So that's all there is for the Visual Studio shortcuts that I use. And I've got a few more things now. It's kind of in addition to this. One is from when I used to use Macs all the time. So I used to use the Apple Macs and use Parallels to run Windows in a virtual machine. But we've had years and years of using Macs, and they've got slow and outdated, and not just because we've got machines old. We've got the full top spec Mac Pros and all the top end laptops, the brand new ones. They just simply got slow. They're not as good as they used to be. In comparison to modern computers now, they're far behind. Apple are really losing what they had. So we moved to Windows Surface books and basically normal built Windows towers now, and they just massively outperform the Macs. So as much as I liked the Mac laptops and computers originally for the the clean style, the Windows Surface books now are easily as good as the MacBooks were, if not better. So on that note, when I used to use Mac for a while, one of the things I really missed was the keyboard shortcuts for closing this current window and closing whole applications. So to close a current window on Mac was the command button, which is like the Windows key, if you will, and the W for closing a window. So I wanted that on Windows and then at the same time closing the whole application was the command and Q, so Windows key and Q, which kind of stands for quit, I guess. And that's much easier on the keyboard than the Windows shortcuts. So I think the Windows shortcut for closing this current window is Control F4, which it is. Which is, to me, that's more awkward and a lot further away. I can't do that without deforming my left hand. Whereas if I wanted to press Windows key and W, you'll see on my machine, it now does the same thing. So Windows key W closes the current window. Windows key and Q, so if I open, say, Notepad, if I press Windows and Q, it closes the whole application, which is the same as Alt F4. But again, you try it on your keyboard, Windows key Q is a lot easier to do than Alt F4. So to get those two shortcuts, the close current window, so effectively Control F4 and Alt F4, to replace those with Windows key W, Windows key Q, we install auto hotkeys. So we go back to the toolbar, and we go here. I've got it open for you. So if you go to autohotkeys.com, download auto hotkeys and install. That will simply install and you'll think nothing's happened. There's nothing really showing. In your toolbar, you'll have this H, which you won't have this because we haven't run it yet, but you'll have this auto hotkeys. In order for it to actually work, you can read all the documentation of how to do it, but I've basically provided what we need already, and there'll be a link in this video. So all you do is once you've installed this, so just simply download it, run it, install it, then press Windows key and R to open this run dialog. Type shell : startup to open your startup folder, which you'll see here is just this path here, and then create, right click, new text document. Did rich text there by mistake, but it doesn't matter. Select everything including the extension here, and then just type, as you can see, shortcuts, shortcuts.ahk, which stands for auto hotkeys. I'll just call this 2 so you can show you. Press enter. It'll warn you, are you sure you want to rename the extension? Just click yes. This will create this auto hotkeys file. Then right click on the file and edit with code or notepad. Open with notepad, do whatever you like. I'll just open it with code. And then in here, basically type exactly what you see here. And again, this will be in the description of the video. So this #Q : is basically saying hash is the Windows key and Q is the key. So that's saying Windows key and Q should basically send the key command Alt, which is what this is, exclamation F4. So all we're doing is mapping Windows key Q to Alt F4. And then below here we're doing another one, which is Windows key W maps to Control F4. So it's creating those two shortcuts. So if you make this exact file, place it in the startup here, it means that every time your computer starts, it will run this file for you, which means your shortcuts are available. For the first time, if you just installed it and created the file, simply double click this file. And then it won't say this because I'm running the script. It'll simply run. But say you run it again, and you can say it's an old version of the script is running. Do you want to replace it with this instance? So all you'd have to do is double click this file. And now when you press Windows key and Q on this, say, window here, it should close the window for you. Same as in Firefox here. If I press Windows key and W now, it will close just this tab. And that brings us on to the next thing, which is screenshots. Again, one more thing I missed with the Macs was the fact that you could just create a screenshot nice and easily with just a few keyboard shortcuts. And I've actually forgot what that keyboard shortcut was now. I haven't used Mac in a while. But I've now created another shortcut, which is Control Windows key and S. And that allows me to now draw and create screenshots and then just copy to clipboard or save as a PNG or do whatever I like with. Even annotate on them, draw and make some marks or whatever. So this is really useful. And as you can see here, this is a software I use, which is Lightshot. So it's app.prntscr, which basically means print screen. So app.printscreen.com. Again, the link is in the video and in the document. Just download and install this software. Then in your taskbar at the bottom, you will have this little feather, purple feather. You right click and click options. go to hotkeys. I uncheck both of these. I don't use the other shortcuts. And I change the general hotkey, which is the one that allows you to draw and do things, to Control, Windows, and S. And then that allows me to do this, quickly create screenshots of whatever I want, and copy them and do whatever. So that's how I do screenshots nice and quickly. That's all the third-party tools I use there. There's a few more Windows shortcuts I use, Visual Studio shortcuts I use, not many. We'll just run through these quickly as well. So when I've created a new, say I create a new class, I call it a class. And now I want to create a constructor. There's things called snippets. So if I type CTOR for constructor, you'll see it's a code snippet for constructor. So I type CTOR and just press tab twice, and it'll then create the constructor for me. So that's making use of a snippet. And that's one of them that I use, one of the few that I use. So you'll see me create a class, and you'll just see me go CTOR, and then all of a sudden this constructor appears. So if you're wondering how I did that, it's a snippet that appears, and you can just press tab twice. Another snippet that you might not realize is a snippet, but when you're commenting stuff that you see me doing in all the videos, like this comment, I just put 3 forward slashes, then that creates a summary text. I'm not sure whether that's classed as a snippet, but it does effectively the same thing. You just don't have to press tabs. So you do 3 and it makes a summary comment for you. And then one other one I use is a region. So if I want to create a new region here, ready for new stuff, just type region, or just start typing region. So reg is enough. Then tab twice again. It will now create a region and a closed region, and it will be highlighted for the name. So I can type this is a region and press enter, and then it's created the region for me, which is slightly faster than going hash region, my region, enter, hash and region, and then going back and tabbing, which you'll see me do all the time in my videos. And it was actually a viewer of the videos that recommended doing the region tab to create the regions. So I'll try and keep remembering to use that one. And then we have one last one, which is the snippets for surroundings. So say I already have properties. Say I have private string a ma. Say I've got some code, some really bad code that's really poorly named and it's got some really bad blank documentation. And say I want to wrap this in a region. So again, I could either manually click here, type region, blah, 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 scroll to the bottom and end region. The other way you can do it is with a surrounds with region. So instead of doing that, you simply select all the text, press Control K and S for surround, and then I've edited my region. So typically you'd have to type in hash and then region. I've renamed my shortcut to just region, and then you can press tab, and you'll see now it surrounds what I've selected with my region, and I can then type a name. So that's a way of surrounding with. This has also been slightly tweaked. So by default, this would not have highlighted where it was. So if I selected here like this, and then Control S and then type region, I wouldn't have got the correct spacing here, here, and below. I fixed that by basically editing the region snippet myself. So to do that yourself, you could go to C drive, Program Files x86, Microsoft Visual Studio, 2017, whatever version you're on, C#, snippets, whatever language you're in, Visual C#, you'll get there eventually. And then these are the snippets. And the one I've edited is this PP region. So right click, and if you go to my blog, I'll show you how to do the open as admin. So if you went to blog.angel6.com, I've just posted how to quickly, funnily enough for this exact file, how to open things in admin. So by default, if you open this text file or this snippet file in code, say, and you try to edit and save, you'll get this error because it's obviously permission denied. You need to run as admin. So usually you'd open, say you'd search for Notepad, right click, run as admin, yes. Then you go to File, Open, and then you browse all the way to the file, then you'd open it, and then you'd edit it. A quicker way now, if you follow this blog post, is you simply now right click on the file, send to, and I've made this admin code shortcut that now opens up in admin. Then what I did was I edited the name, so it was originally hash region and shortcut was hash region. So I removed the hash so it's quicker to type. I don't have to type hash then every time I want to use Control KS. And then I tweaked this metadata here, which basically means you start the C data and then it puts in this exact bit here. So it puts region and then a name that it'll prompt for. Then it'll put a new line. Then it'll put the selected text you've got to the end of where your selection is, and then it'll put the end region and then a new line afterwards. So if you compare this to the original file, and again this exact file is on my blog post, this is just a slight tweak so that the region surrounds by works well for me based on how I select the text. So I typically select the line below where I am here up to the top line, and that's how I select what I want to wrap. Whereas other people might put a new line here, and they might select just the start here, they might select up here. So you'll see when you try to do the surrounds by, Control K, S, and then region, you'll judge for like, if you keep getting an extra new line here, then just edit the snippet file and remove a new line between the region, and like this one would need an extra new line put in there before end region. But again, I did a blog post on that, so that should be nice and easy to follow. And I think that is all I've got for shortcuts. So we've covered a lot of, well, pretty much every shortcut I use, as well as the light shot and auto hotkeys. So anything you see in my videos now, any kind of shortcut or anything I'm doing, you should find in this video. And like I say, I've made a solid documentation of all these shortcuts, and that's linked in this post. So if you forget what they are or you want to quickly scroll through and find them, you can. Again, if you've got any good shortcuts you want to recommend, I'd like to hear them. You're always learning new shortcuts in Visual Studio, and it's always nice to learn, a new shortcut. So again, do post your favorite shortcuts, and then I can have a try myself, and you'll then probably see me using them in new videos if I find them more beneficial than typing out the whole code that I would have had to type in the first place. So hopefully this was a useful video again. Let me know your thoughts, and then yeah, that's it.